Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a great weekend. Mine was, and I'll tell you a little bit about it more in just a moment. I want to apologize to my loyal listeners. We normally start at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We had a few technical difficulties that hopefully we were able to iron them out. But here we are live in person, and we're glad to have you here. We got a great show for you today. We're going to start out with the polling coming out of Iowa. Donald Trump, it should be no surprise to anyone, certainly not to me and my listeners, I wouldn't think, but Trump is crushing all comers in the Iowa poll. They did a poll about potential 2024 presidential candidates in the Republican field, and Donald Trump is cruising and crushing them all, and we'll talk about that and some of the other results of the poll. And then, absent Donald Trump, I mean, obviously if he wins and the nomination decides to run, and if he does run, I think he will win, well, who would be the potential people running against him in the Democratic field? Because nobody really thinks it's going to be Joe Biden. So we're going to talk about a couple of people. In the first case, Buttigieg, or however you say his name. Apparently his stock is rising. I can't believe it, but his stock is rising within the Democratic Party. And then, of course, you always got old Kamala Harris, and Psaki came out with a tweet and defended Kamala Harris, essentially saying that she was vital to the Biden administration. So we'll talk about all of that. But before we go any further, I always have to talk about the show that precedes us and an opportunity that you have out there for great savings. Look above our video, no matter when or where you're watching it, and click on the link BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited, and you will get factory direct pricing on everything related to the Second Amendment, from guns and ammunition to over 100,000 other related items like tactical gear, survival, protective wear, all of that delivered directly to your door at factory direct pricing. Now, if you want an example of just how good a deal you can get, check out Denny's deals. Denny comes across John Martin Talks. He's also on our excluded Facebook site. You get there by spelling excluded, drop the E and spell it with just the X, excluded. Denny comes on an hour before we do at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and he takes a few products from the Big Daddy Unlimited arsenal. He demonstrates and talks about them, but then he gives you the manufactured, the direct from the manufactured price, the savings you will not believe if you are a member of BDU. So once you see that price, go back above our video, no matter when or where you're watching it, click on that link, Big Daddy Unlimited, and those savings will be yours. And Christmas is literally around the corner, and nothing says I love you more than maybe a little 9mm pistol right in your stocking there. All right, well, we'll get on with the show. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want to tell you just briefly about my weekend. I went fishing. Those of y'all who know, there's a picture of one of actually 6 gag groupers I caught, which I had to give away 2 of them because the limit is 4. That's not even the biggest one, but it was one of the best pictures, so I wanted to show it. But I had a stellar time on Hubbard's Marina, Hubbard's Boat, the Florida Fisherman. Check out hubbardsmarina.com. Let me put on a little tag for my people there. But it was great. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. This comes to you via Breitbart. Iowa caucus poll, Trump holds commanding intra-GOP lead. And there you go. There's hopefully we got a picture of Donald Trump and the beautiful Melania. But former President Donald Trump holds a commanding lead over several other potential 2024 GOP presidential candidates in Iowa. A survey of likely Iowa GOP caucus goers obtained by Breitbart News. Now, why wouldn't Donald Trump lead? I mean, we definitely missed Donald Trump, no doubt about it, right? Donald Trump, we just don't have a leader, certainly in the White House, but I don't know, even though I love a lot of the Republicans, there is nobody quite like Donald Trump. I hope I'm able to play this video. I want to play a video for you. This was Donald Trump when he was still in the White House. God help us, I wish he still was. Right after he got released from the hospital with COVID. Let's play this video if we can. Check it out.
dominate. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen. We're the greatest country in the world. We're going back. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune. I don't know.
I mean, Donald Trump, man, think about that. He went before the nation after coming close to potentially losing his life. You know, he's older and that kind of thing. He had COVID. Where is the president of the United States right now? I mean, God help us, I guess it's Joe Biden. But where is it? I mean, he's literally been in a bunker, so to speak, even though he's president of the United States. They talk about COVID being the #1 thing out there still. We're going to talk about Buttigieg here in a minute. And I saw an interview with him that played over the weekend. And he was talking about how the supply chain and everything, the biggest problem we're facing is still COVID. If true, then where is President Biden on this? He literally is cowering down. He doesn't even average one appearance a day, let alone actually conducting the affairs of the office. So where are they on this? Donald Trump, love him, hate him, whatever, that man was courageous, is courageous, and was out in front. No wonder Republican GOP voters are choosing Donald Trump again in overwhelming numbers. Now, a lot could change between 2024. We don't even know if I'm having a Biden moment. We don't even know if President Trump is going to run again or not. I know that he wants to. We'll talk about more of that in just a minute. But what a leader Donald Trump is. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like Billy Bob, if you hadn't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks, because we are determined to stay in the public square no matter what. That's why we have advanced on to Rumble, for instance, now. Good morning, Rumblers. How are you? Glad we're streaming live every day on Rumble and archive there. It is now your go-to place for free speech, and we're expanding our reach every day, and we need you, our listeners, and I'm very grateful for our loyal listeners, to like us, share us, and put us out far and wide. But Billy Bob says, you know, Donald Trump has every right to ride off into the sunset if he so chooses. I don't think he's going to do that, but he certainly has earned that right. But he's working hard right now. So we'll get into more of that in a minute. The survey from pollster Rick, this is what, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about an Iowa caucus poll that was taken of potential GOP candidates for president in 2024, and Joe Biden is not even in the list. We'll talk about him in a minute. But Donald Trump is leading by a wide margin, and we'll get into this. The survey from pollster Rick Shafton, don't know anything about him, it's called Neighborhood Research and Media, shows Trump at nearly 56%, with 55.7% leading in the next closest possible rival, Florida Governor Ron Desantis, by more than 40 points. So what this poll does basically is it says, who is your first choice in the Republican field, potential field for president? And in this case, almost 56% were Donald Trump. Then it asks you to pick your second choice and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind as we keep going. DeSantis, talking about America's governor, Ron Desantis, that's what I call him, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, is at 12.3%, so that's quite a bit below Donald Trump, is the only other candidate to break double digits at this stage per the poll. The third place candidate is South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem at 2.1%, and no other candidate gets more than 2%, while 20.8% are undecided. Let me just briefly talk about Kristi Noem for just a second. And yes, the answer to that, Billy Bob, is absolutely, we missed Donald Trump, and I'll expand upon that in just a second. But Kristi Noem, her star dimmed a little bit. Now, I still think a lot of her, but if you remember, and we talked about it on our show. By the way, if you want to see our podcast, there's many ways to do it, but one of the great ways is to go to the Excluded app. So go to your app store, spell Excluded by dropping the E, put the big X up there, Excluded. Get that app. Our show is on there every day, archived, and there are tons of other shows and original program, check out the excluded app, drop the E, put the big X up there. But I talked about this previously, that Kristi Noem, you know, she, at first she wouldn't support the challenge of the state legislature to the NCAA rule about, you know, transgenders playing in women's sports, and there were multiple other things, and she really came down on the wrong side, especially if you're conservative, at least from my opinion, but it's an opinionated fact nonetheless. She came down on the wrong side nonetheless, and so her star has dimmed a little bit. She could certainly pick up momentum, and all of their stars have dimmed if you compare them to Donald Trump. But yes, we absolutely miss Donald Trump, and why wouldn't we? Promises made, promises kept. Well, I could give you a laundry list of reasons why we miss Donald Trump, but all you got to really do is look at what's actually happening in the country and around the world right now. And the world doesn't probably want to admit it, but the world misses Donald Trump, because think about it. Were we in a better, let me just ask this question and we'll move along. Were we in a better position as a nation 4 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago? How about the price of something like gasoline? How about how it's hitting your pocketbook? Are we better off today than we were like 7, 8 months ago when Donald Trump was still president? I think you know the answer to that, but we'll just chime in on whatever social media site you're listening to, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Former President Mike Pence, now this is the polling, back to this polling. Former President Mike Pence and Senator Tim Cotton of Arkansas each got 1.6% in the poll. And let me just back up and talk about these two guys real quick. Mike Pence, I'll start with Tom Cotton. I think Tom Cotton is still kind of relatively unknown. I got to tell you, once you really get to know Tom Cotton, he definitely has the timber to be president of the United States. I'm not saying you should put him above Donald Trump. I don't think you should put any of these people above Donald Trump. But Tom Cotton certainly has a bright future, I think, and I would not be surprised if one day Tom Cotton is actually the nominee for the Republican Party and eventually President of the United States. I would not be surprised about that at all. He just needs more name recognition and people understanding where he's coming from. Mike Pence, fair or unfair, let me just tell you the bottom line. Mike Pence is done. Mike Pence has no shot at ever being president again. Now, it may not be fair, and I'm not going to get into all the details. I'm simply saying that without the support of MAGA Nation, without the support of America First, you cannot get the Republican nomination and will not win the presidency. And people just like it, love it, hate it, whatever, just need to get their mind around that. Even if Donald Trump does not run, or heaven forbid something happens and down the road and Donald Trump moves on to the, you know, the Mar-a-Lago in the sky kind of thing, Mike Pence is not going to get the vote. You're just, the awakening that Donald Trump did, the movement that Donald Trump was in front of, the MAGA movement, the America First movement, who knows how strong it will ultimately be, but there's going to be either big remnants of it or small remnants, but there'll be remnants, and let's just say it like it is. Pence is done in that arena. It may not be fair, but it's reality. I don't think Mike Pence has any shot politically. The only political shot he has is something in like Indiana where he lives. You know, he could go back to Congress, senator, maybe governor, or he may be appointed by somebody who actually wins the presidency to hold a position. But I do not see Mike Pence ever being the nominee, let alone president of the United States, just the way it is. The United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley is stalled at 1.1%. I think she kind of cooked her goose as well. She has been too critical of Donald Trump. I've go back and forth with her a little bit. I just don't see Nikki Haley being at the top of the ticket anytime soon. I think she has an outside chance in the future. As I said, I don't think Pence has any. She has some future. She definitely has a future as potentially being a member of someone's cabinet or even vice president. I don't see her leading the ticket in 2024, regardless of what Trump does. But let's move along here. Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz keeps coming out because, of course, he won the Iowa caucus by like 1%, right? At just under 8.8%, something to that effect. But he is now polling at just 0.8% in this poll. Now, what I think, and like a lot of these people, I come and go with Ted Cruz. I was really disappointed in some of the things that he did during the 2016 campaign. But Ted Cruz has been a great spokesman for conservative, for patriotic issues, for America First. He's been a great spokesman for that. He is very challenging on these Senate panels. He asks some great questions. And he, you know, I'd love to have him on the show. I mean, Ted Cruz is one of the smartest, brightest people up there, but sometimes he gets a little grandiose for himself. I don't know. I don't think Ted Cruz, I could actually see him being on the Supreme Court before he ever becomes president of the United States. I'm just telling you like it is. He definitely ain't going to beat Donald Trump, and I doubt he even runs if that happens. Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, is at 0.08% as well. Now, Tim Scott is a rising star in those that know about things in the Republican Party. I can tell you a lot of people like Tim Scott. There are people who have already put some money behind him. I think Tim Scott would at some point be an excellent choice. He's just still unknown. You know, a lot of these people, one of the things, this is a side note. If you decide you want to run for office, if you're running for something, say, as big as county commissioner or school board, you need to do a little bit of polling before you announce your decision. Because what happens is a lot of people think, because everybody they know says, yeah, we're behind you, we're behind you. But when you poll, like say here in Alachua County where I live, the county's about 250,000, 300,000 people in it. And there's a lot of people who want to run for different offices, and they really think that people know them. They really think that. And I can tell you that people don't. They don't know who you are. If you're talking about maybe 10,000 people, maybe so. But when you start getting into hundreds of thousands of people, let alone something like a presidential race, you'd be surprised at how few people actually know who you are. If they took a poll of just general voters out there right now, and I'm going to say the same thing about some others, so I'll just put a blanket thing out there, you'd be surprised how many people have never heard of Tim Scott. So he's got some work to do. I think he would be a great choice, for instance, for vice president under anybody running for that matter, but certainly for Donald Trump. And then they talk about Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida. Once again, I have mixed emotions about Rubio. People definitely know him, but that 0.8%, I really think it goes back to the measurement thing. I started to play the video, but we won't bore you with that. But you remember back, I mean, Donald Trump took a lot of these guys out, man. He absolutely obliterated Marco Rubio with the hand thing, right? Little Marco, because remember they were talking about size matters and they didn't know. And my question back then was, do you measure it like this or do you measure it like this? I'm still debating that. That's an age-old question. But Marco Rubio, I just don't see him being at the top of the ticket or any part of the ticket. I think he's got a good shot at continuing to be senator in Florida. I think he's redeemed himself quite a bit as senator, because especially when it comes to the China issue, and of course we know about the Cuban issue and stuff. So I think he's comfortable in the Senate. I just don't see him jumping to the top of this. And of course they say no other candidates were named. I want to play you a video right here. And this was back during the 2020 election, I do believe, when Donald Trump was rallying. Not sure where the rally was, but we've heard similar things since then, even after this year. But I'll tell you, before I play this, you're going to hear the crowd break into a spontaneous chant, and they're not saying, "Let's go, Brandon," although they could. By the way, side story on that, I was fishing next to a guy on the trip, and a young guy, and his name was Brandon. And I said, "Hey, let's go, Brandon." And then we got to talking, and he's a Trump supporter, but he admits that he wishes that saying had never happened as about anybody who is named Brandon. He said because it just comes up all the time. But anyway, about Donald Trump, I have followed politics my whole life, but I have never, ever heard a crowd spontaneously do this for a candidate, let alone a sitting president. Check it out.
Especially when you have a crowd like this. But they're like this. They have such spirit in this country. People love our country so much. I went to Texas, I went to Ohio, I went to Florida. It's always like this. They love our country. And we're not going to disappoint anybody. We're not disappointed. For years, you had a president who apologized for America.
I think you get the point. I ask you, have you ever heard any politician, really any person, I mean, even Hollywood actors and stuff, man, or entertainers, musicians, I've never heard anyone get that kind of chant, especially spontaneous like that. And believe me, it was spontaneous. And I tell people all the time, I used to tell them this all the time, and of course, if I say it, it bears repeating. Go to a Trump rally, man. It is a love fest. All this stuff in the media and everything else is total baloney. It is a love fest, and everyone is welcome there. Even people who are opposed to Donald Trump, if they behave themselves, nobody's going to put up with shenanigans. But I've been to rallies where people were literally there to just kind of check it out. It is a love fest. So if Donald Trump comes to your neighborhood, man, you ought to check it out. But never, have you ever heard anybody chant that? And I say that, it basically sums it up, but we're going to keep going, that none of these people who potentially want to run for president can run against Donald Trump in a Republican primary. They're never going to reach that thing. Now, of course, things can happen, but I can't imagine the people chanting, "We love you," are ever going to stop chanting that and start chanting it for somebody else. I don't know that we'll ever hear a chant like that again. I'm just saying, it's just amazing to me as a political junkie. Back to this article. Technically, nobody has announced for 2024. That is absolutely true. GOP presidential campaigns yet. And if Trump runs, a lot of Republicans are expected to defer to him. Why wouldn't they if they're smart? People like Chris Christie, he's not even mentioned in this poll, but he's obviously running for president. We talked about that last week. And, he's got, I got a better shot at being president of the United States than Chris Christie. Let's just put it that way. But it says here, Nome, for instance, talking about people who have deferred, said in a recent, she's the governor of South Dakota, said in a recent Breitbart News exclusive on the Hill video special interview that she would back Trump if he runs for 2024. And she's smart to do that. And she certainly would be a cabinet choice, but I actually think that, she fits a bill for some, she checks boxes, and there's nothing wrong with checking some boxes, not every box like they're trying to do in the Biden administration. But I would not be surprised to see her be a choice for vice president should Trump actually run. DeSantis, meanwhile, has reportedly told Trump he would back him, but has not said so publicly. Well, I said this last week, but I want to say it again. And people, I don't know if maybe I'm not explaining it correctly. It doesn't make sense for Ron DeSantis to run for vice president, for instance, or to run for president against Donald Trump. It makes no sense at all to me. And here's why in a quick nutshell. Right now, Ron DeSantis is in the catbird seat. If Donald Trump doesn't run, he catapults to the top. He was clearly in this poll like at the top of everybody's second place choice and distanced everybody by a wide margin. If Trump actually was to run and win, then he can only serve one term. Then Ron DeSantis is at the top once again. Things can change, but I'm talking about now. Best prediction now. And heaven forbid if Donald Trump actually ran and lost, well, who would be at the top no matter what? Probably somebody like Ron DeSantis. So it just doesn't make any political sense. I'm just talking about political sense for him to actually run. But I got to put a little caveat on that. Bill O'Reilly. I heard Bill O'Reilly, who is, good friends with Donald Trump. I heard him on a talk show just about over the weekend. And he was talking about a tour that he and Donald Trump are about to launch. Now, you need to check out the details for yourself, but from memory, now these tours are not rallies. They're paid events. And according to to O'Reilly, they're not going to be like live streamed or any of that kind of stuff. They may use it in the future, who knows. But it's going to be like an interview process kind of thing. The first one of these, and please check the website, but the first one of these at O'Reilly's website is on the 10th in Miami and on the 11th in Orlando. And so check that out. Then they're going to hold two like a couple of weeks later in Texas, various places. So please check that out. Once again, you got to purchase a ticket. But O'Reilly in this interview said a couple of interesting things. First of all, he said he believes that Donald Trump absolutely wants to run and likely will run. And we'll get into that more in a minute. But he also said, two other things that were really interesting. He said he talked to President Trump and said, you know, you got to tone down some of your rhetoric. You got to run on your record. And I think some of this I agree with. You got to run on your record because your record wins. Your rhetoric may not. And I take that for what it's worth. But then he said something really interesting about Ron Desantis. And I'm just quoting Bill O'Reilly, so, don't fact check me on this. He said that he did think that DeSantis would be a choice as vice president for Trump, and that Trump and DeSantis had talked about this. I wouldn't even mention this, but he said it on the public airways, so, I stand by what I said a few minutes ago. All right, let's move along. While Trump does have a commanding lead, we're talking about this polling in Iowa for potential GOP 2024 presidential candidates. He does have work to shore up dissent inside the GOP should he decide to run again. And they make a case here that I see where they're coming from. I'm not sure I 100% agree, and we'll get into it. A memo from Shafton, that's the person that ran this poll, accompanying the poll results, said this. This memo from it said, includes this revelation. 35% of respondents did not pick Trump for any of their three choices, including 14% of very conservatives. So he didn't get a lot of second place vote. He got by far the most first place votes, which is ultimately what happens. It said 43% of somewhat conservative voters and half moderates. See, I'm not sure what that means. Now, if you go back to 2016, Trump rarely got above 50% in the primaries. He got enough to just trounce everybody else, right? And so it's not surprising to me in this poll, the fact that he got over, almost 56% of people's choice. That's pretty telling. That means obviously he would win. Now you could go back and say, well, he was somewhat unknown, or the knowns about him weren't the same as being actual president. And that's true. But the only thing I would say about that is that his numbers went up within Republican voters from 2016 actual votes in this poll, and they know what he would be like as president. So I don't see a lot of negative in that. They're kind of insinuating that it is. Back to this article. It says, should he run, Trump also faces what Shafton, the conductor of the poll, describes as reverse gender gap. Talking about women, of course, where men are much more supportive of him than women. And this is real. This stuff is real. I see it. I hear it from people. Shafton writes that in respondents underage, and this is really interesting, at underage 35, men were more pro-Trump and women less so, something he described as a striking difference. And I'm not sure why women don't, especially young women, don't cater to Donald Trump. Some of it's because they've been brainwashed in our education system, and some of it is like the Billy Bush tapes, the grabbing this and all that. By the way, Donald Trump did not say he did that. He said he could do that, and I think he's probably right about that. But to me, if you look at what's happening right now in the country, as the saying goes, I'll take a mean tweet over like $4, $5 a gallon gas any day. So get real on that. But if the current, I'll say this to anybody who's out there who is ready to vote for somebody other than the Democrats, but is still kind of reluctant on Trump. If the current situation that we're in this country, both nationally and internationally, compared to when Donald Trump was president, if you actually do an honest comparison for those, and that doesn't convince you that Trump is the guy, I don't know that anything will, so we'll see. But Shafton went on to say, and to me this is very interesting, talking about the gender gap. He said, but among older, more conservative women, Shafton found that Trump is dominant Among the high turnout group of very conservative women, he's plus 35 over DeSantis by a huge margin of 69-3. And that's really, really impressive. I'm not surprised. But here's the thing, and I don't mean this in any sexist way, so let me apologize already. Older women probably tend to know what's really important compared to younger. And what's really important is your security of your family, the future of your children and your grandchildren, the fact that you can, feel secure in the home and all of that kind of stuff. So older women understand they can compartmentalize Trump. They can look at it and say, some of the stuff he says I don't like, but what he's actually doing and how the country's running, I'm good to go. And so I think voters in general need to do that. But here Shafton surveyed offered respondents a second and third choice. I said, DeSantis' strength, he said, at 35 plus men who make up a large share of the political class is not only a long-term concern for Trump, but his strength, especially among Trump voters on the second ballot, sucks all the oxygen away from any potential candidate. See, to me, Ron DeSantis, I just told you about him. I love Ron DeSantis. I mean, I call him tell people all the time, man, I'm American by birth, Floridian, baby, like the flag back there, by the grace of God, man. So I'm all about Ron DeSantis. I'm not putting him over Donald Trump, and I don't, obviously, the people in Iowa, and I think America's not doing that either. But I'm wanting Donald Trump to run for multiple reasons, of course, but one of my best reasons is because they talk about Donald Trump being unhinged, right? And I was hoping and praying and working hard because what I wanted to see a second term for Donald Trump is because I wasn't worried about Donald Trump unhinged. I wanted to see the Trumpster unleashed, baby, when he didn't have to worry about anything whatsoever, and he doesn't really have to anyway, but I want to see Donald Trump unleashed. Some people may be terrified of that. I am excited about the potential of Donald Trump unleashed. But let me conclude this story, and I keep saying this, but I think it really bears repeating. Donald Trump may or may not run. I keep going back and forth a little bit about it. I do think if this big media thing he started actually gets really successful, he probably won't run because he'll feel obligated to do that. Plus, he'll have a huge influence there. But if you out there want Donald Trump to run, there are two things that, in my view, and they're kind of interconnected, that must happen. First, we must clean up these states and the election integrity issues, and get them back to constitutional voting, and that only the state legislatures, not COVID, nothing else, only state legislatures can change election laws, and we totally got away from that in 2020, and so we can't do that. We got to clean up, and Florida and Georgia and places like that are doing it. You're not going to expect California and New York to do it. The states where Donald Trump won in 2016, that he theoretically lost in 2020. I'm just saying, there's no question that Joe Biden got the most ballots. Let's just put it that way. But we got to clean that up, because why would Donald Trump run if the same thing is going to happen again? And then the other thing which is connected to that, we must take back the House and the Senate and get them back in Republican hands. I'm not saying Republicans have all that in a bag of chips. There are many of them I'd like to flush and get them gone. Mitch McConnell, I wish old Turtlehead would be hitting the road, but he's around for a while till God, only God probably going to take him out. And I'm not wishing that on him. But we got to take back the House and Senate, because we know what we get with the Democrats, right? We know what we got. We saw what we got with them. And so I don't think, why would Donald Trump run in 2024 if the House and or the Senate is still in Democratic hands? So clean up the state level, and they got to win in 2024. If you want Donald Trump to run, you have to assist in that. Well, speaking of assist, I want to assist you and your health. I want my audience to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. Healthy by this next event, wise by listening to us, and wealthy because we're working on a gold deal as well. But go above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. Click on the link, johnmartinhealth.com, johnmartinhealth.com. Follow the directions, and you will get absolutely free a bottle of zinc and a bottle of vitamin D3. My gift to you, check it out no matter what, johnmartinhealth.com. please take advantage of this free $50 value gift to you. All right, let's keep moving in the time we have left. I got to talk about old Buttigieg here, but I'm sorry, it's hard for me to pronounce his name, man. But this is from AP. Buttigieg star. So we're going to talk about the potential, assuming whoever comes out of the GOP, it ain't going to be Biden out of the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. I don't see him getting out. So who's going to be the heir apparent, the next candidate for president on the Democratic side? Well, apparently it might be Buttigieg. This is from APP. Buttigieg star rises as 1 trillion plus, actually, 1 trillion Biden agenda shifts toward him. The one that was brought to you by the Republican Party. That's why I tell you they don't always have it down pat. But Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary who holds the purse strings to much of President Joe Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure package, was holding forth the reports on its impact, or is holding forth on the reports of its impact. In other words, he's standing court, so to speak. The promise of more, like King Arthur's court, the promise of more electric cars, intercity train routes, bigger airports, when the pointed question comes. So if you listen to him, and I was listening to his interviews and stuff, I was like, who does he sound like? He spits out these platitudes. He sounds like something from Blade Runner. And all due deference, I don't want to mean to besmirch Rutger Hauer there for Blade Runner, but he sounds like a cyborg, like a created human being, man, that they could program, right? His answers are so vanilla toast and ice cream or whatever and programmed, it's unbelievable. But this is what he said. Buttigieg said, I'm still surprised that some people were surprised when I pointed to the fact that if a highway was built for the purpose of dividing a white and black neighborhood, that obviously reflects racism. So with the Democrats, it's all about race, right? They play the race. And the reason is, ladies and gentlemen, because they cannot run on their record. How can they possibly, even Buttigieg, he's in charge of the transportation. How can he run on that? So highways, we now know that trees, according to Kamala Harris, we played that last week, are racist. What else is racist? Everything is racist. Even Larry Elder, who unsuccessfully, God help us, should have been the next governor of out there in California. He was the face of white supremacy. And the new lieutenant governor in Virginia is a mouthpiece for white supremacy. Everything is racist. It's unbelievable. But listen to this. Racial equity, back to this article, is an issue where Democratic priorities and Buttigieg's future align. So it's all about, even though he only got like 1% of the black vote, I don't see how they align, but that's what the article's saying. One of his greatest shortcomings as White House candidate was his inability to win over black voters. There was a few other inabilities. How he navigates the heading into 2022 midterm. But remember, Bernie bros hate Buttigieg, by the way. I don't know if they still do. Some may like him a little bit more than others. Midterms will probably shape the fortunes of Biden's agenda and the Democratic Party if it's not his own prospects. But let me tell you this. People have been saying, oh, Joe Biden, the worst president ever. And the jury's out. He may be, but I think of some like Carter and everything. One thing is for certain. Joe Biden has absolutely, hands down, the worst cabinet ever picked, certainly in my lifetime, because it has nothing to do with their ability. It's all about box checking, and you know what Buttigieg checks. But, one of the things I have promised to my listeners is I will tell you when you're being played. And let me just tell you, there's a certain segment in our population that is being played to the hill, and that is the black American community. And I know it's not monolithic, but let me tell you, black Americans, you are being played, from illegal border crossings that drive down wages and all that to literally everything, trees, being racist. You are being played. I always remember back when candidate Donald Trump said this. Check it out.
No group in America has been more harmed by Hillary Clinton's policies than African Americans. No group. No group. If Hillary Clinton's goal was to inflict pain on the African American community, she could not have done a better job. It's a disgrace. Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
Amen. Now, see, some people don't like it when Trump says something like that. And, you know, he's telling the truth, but they don't like that part either. But the reality is Donald Trump doesn't sugarcoat anything. I know that rubs some people the wrong way. Personally, I like the straightforward talk, man. And what he's saying is absolutely a fact. It was a fact then, and I got to tell you, it's even more a fact now. Why, I don't know why anybody would vote for the Democrats and Biden, but why would black Americans vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats right now? Please chime in. I'm mystified by this. I understand why you might not vote for someone else, the Democrats or whatever, but really and truly, if you actually want to vote, not for some kind of personality, but what's really in the interest of all Americans, how can you vote for the Democrats? They are literally destroying our country. And if you want to, let me just put it out there. I'm just a straightforward person. I try to be anyway. If you live in an inner city, black America, are you better off now than you were a few years ago or 6 months ago? Are your neighborhoods getting more safe? Is there more work, more opportunity for your children now or back when Donald Trump was president? I mean, if you answer that honestly and you still say, well, I'm for Biden, remember Biden was the guy in the crime bill in 1994 when he actually still had his marbles. I don't think he had all his senses, but he had his marbles. Literally said that he doesn't care why your children, black America, literally doesn't care what causes them to get in the street. They just need to be locked up. That's the guy that's in the White House now. All right, let's keep moving. As Biden prepares to sign the infrastructure bill, he's supposed to sign it today in a big ceremony, maybe happening as we speak. Eyes are turning to the man still best known as Mayor Pete, but get, a newcomer whose promise of generational change and real-world sensibility of fixing potholes, what has Buttigieg ever done, launched him to the top of the early Democratic primary contest during the 2020 campaign. But he didn't stay there very long. Billy Bob reminds me, he didn't stay there very long, man. 1% of the black vote is all he got. Is this the best that the Democrats have to do? Can do? Is this the best they can do? Is somebody like Buttigieg, assuming Biden doesn't last through, And I guess if he's going to run for president, he's got to get past. Well, let's play this. This is the person he's got to get past, and we'll talk about it. Check it out.
I just love the idea of exploring the unknown. And then there's other things that we just haven't figured out or discovered yet. To think about so much that's out there that we still have to learn. I love that. I love that. And so I'm very excited about the Space Council. We're going to learn so much as we increasingly, I think, are curious and interested in the potential for the discoveries and the work we can do in space. So that's one of the things I'm most excited about. But the other, you guys are going to see. You're going to literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes.
Wow.
With your own eyes. I'm telling you.
You just can't imagine it. I want to get on this committee with Kamala Harris because I don't know about you. I grew up in the country where it's crystal clear blue skies. I go out on the ocean where it's really beautiful to see the moon on certain nights. But I just want to see it with my own eyes. This is who Buttigieg has got to sneak past, I suppose. Let's talk about Kamala for a couple minutes here before the show ends. This is from Business Insider. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki defended Kamala Harris after exasperation and dysfunction. In other words, her staff is like pissed at her, talking about Kamala, in the vice president's office. Yeah, I love that meme right now. I'm at the border. That's actually like the South Carolina border, but I love that. But White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, I can't say it any other way, tweeted in defense of Vice President Kamala Harris hours after a critical report alleged, I have trouble with that, exasperation and dysfunction going into her office. Now, this is the tweet that Psaki put out. She said, for everyone who needs to hear it, at VP is not only a vital partner to at POTUS, but a bold leader who has taken on key, important challenges facing the country, from voting rights to addressing root causes and immigration to expanding broadband. I mean, she's a broad that's expanding, I guess. I mean, what has Kamala Harris done? She's done nothing with the border. She's done nothing with anything, man. I mean, can you name me one accomplishment other than maybe pissing off her staff that Kamala Harris has done since she's been president? And remember, she didn't get any votes in the primary. She quit before. And remember when, and I was trying to find this video, but I ran out of time, when she came out and she said, in a Harris-Biden administration, you know, we'll do this, that, the other. I mean, wow. Okay, where is Kamala? Billy Bob tells me that we actually have a new name for the administration. I know it's a bit crude, but I just love it, man. It's I'm not even going to read it. You'll have to read it. I guess I should have gave you a warning. I never claimed to be a family show. My goal is to be seriously entertaining. So to sum all this up, it sounds to me like that if Donald Trump wants to be the nominee for the Republican Party in 2024, it's his. It's his for the taking. I don't think that's a big, great prophecy on my part. I think people know that. People love Donald Trump. They still do. Now, he will bring out passion on both sides of the aisle. The only thing is how much. But I think if people take an honest look, and I can't imagine things getting better between now and then. One thing about it that it just sucks, man, is no matter what happens with Biden, we got another 3.5 basically years of this nonsense. Hopefully we can stop them in the House, which I told you, if you want Donald Trump to run, that's the way it's got to be. But they say, I mean, these Democrats are pretty desperate after Virginia, and so they're putting Buttigieg up at the top of the ticket, and they want to go after the black vote with that, and they're just shelving Kamala Harris. She's just on the shelf, man. So to me, the Democrats are in disarray. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all our social media sites, like them, and share them with others far and wide. We need you to do that. Look above the video no matter when or where you're watching it. Take advantage of the great savings with Big Daddy Unlimited. Remember, johnmartinhealth.com. Follow the directions for this free $50 value gift to you. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. We better all pray for this nation. She certainly needs it, and she deserves it, don't you think? But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.